We are now joined by mining analyst Peter Major, who's in our Cape Town studio. Peter, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. So finally, some justice in relation to the looting that we saw at Eskom.
Well, it's long overdue, but we're happy that it's coming late rather than never. But the whole debacle that was going on there, you know, Eskom rhymes with a company in the States that went under for this kind of thing. You know, people creating false shortages and then charging double and triple for the electricity. It's almost like the people at Eskom at the time were taking lessons from Enron.
Yeah, so 3.7 billion rand, that is no doubt going to help our very embattled power utility. Well,
it's an enormous amount of money, and we know how well it would go if Eskom had it now. But this is just scratching the surface here. You know, we had so many years of I guess it always occurred in threes. You know, we had so many years of Brown, and Bobby, Ben, and Brian. And then we had so many years with Singh and with Coco and with Gagaba. Well, maybe not too many years, but you know, this 3.7 is just scratching it. If you look at what Eskom's spending on coal today, even today, it is so warped that you've got people getting 1,500 rand a ton and people getting 400 rand a ton. And I've never understood why all these contracts had to be secret, why they shouldn't be on TV and in the newspaper. You know, the more secrecy you have, it's just a breeding ground for this kind of thing.
Yeah, so Peter, just tell us about how you see things going at Eskom if we slowly start seeing more and more of that money going back into the power utility. I know you're saying this is just scratching the surface, but in the future, if we see this happening and continuing to happen, are things finally going to get right?
Look, it's hard to say how much we're going to get back, but the people were so brazen after years and years of exploiting the system they had at Eskom that I would think this should be a basis of last in, first out. I think the last few years they were so bold, so brazen, that it's going to be easy to identify who the culprits were. It's going to be easy to identify the amounts of money and where it went. You know, in the early days, say in 2003, 2004, 2005, the people were more cautious, the scams weren't so blatant, and the amounts were smaller. But if we just work backwards from today going in reverse, we're talking billions instead of tens of millions. We're talking hundreds of millions instead of millions. And those should be the easiest amounts to identify and get back, because they were the most blatant, the most corrupt, the most irregular.
Yeah, so where else do you reckon we can get money back from? Which other dodgy deals does the SIU actually need to work on now?
Look, I would go through every coal-signed contract, but obviously start with the big contracts. You know, why take scarce resources and look at small contracts? Go for the ones that cost the billions, that run for the longest period of time. And I'm not just talking coal contracts. What about construction contracts and, you know, all the suppliers? And heck, because the numbers are so big, I'd screen out everything unless it looks real easy. And maybe they should start giving incentives. You know, if you give incentives for turncoats, give incentives for state's evidence, give incentives for people turning in blatant ones. Remember Mississippi burning when the Ku Klux Klan was killing people and the Kennedys had to get results. Hey, they paid a couple rewards, and before you know it, the Ku Klux Klan was turning their own people in. So a little bit of incentive would help and go a long ways here, I think.
All right, thank you so much.
Financial incentives.
Yeah, thanks for that. Appreciate it. Mining analyst Peter Major.